I'm so grateful that we were able to connect on LinkedIn.
We're getting visibility. We're building these incredible relationships. They're, referencing us, or like all these things that are being built, and it's because they got active on LinkedIn.
I've never had this level of engagement or desire to engage on a platform like I do LinkedIn, but it was really built for our space. I was just on the phone with someone that I connected with on LinkedIn 5 minutes ago, and he sent me an email after coming to our webinar. We do a webinar every week, a live webinar with guests and Q&A and stuff like that. And it's super fun. And he was being very gracious, and I just hit his number and called him, and we had never spoken over the phone or in person, and it was so cool. And I just said the same thing to him. It's like, hey, listen, no offense to Meta, Facebook, whatever. I'm just so grateful. I've never had this level of engagement or desire to engage on a platform like I do LinkedIn, and because we live it, man. We're students of fundraising, as I know you are too, just from engaging with you and consuming your content. But it was really built for our space. I really feel like, and I know it affects so many other professional industries and networks and what have you, and different subcultures and verticals or whatever you want to call them. But I was like, man, this is where our audience is. This is where our people are. And I say this, very, if you don't mind fondly, is like, you seem like you're an expert in the space. And, what got you on this path with LinkedIn and teaching folks how to use it, to find funders and to expand the mission and all these lovely things. What got you on that case, man?
I appreciate that. And just, before we dive into that, I just absolutely agree with everything that you mentioned. My wife jokes around quite a bit with me because she's like, I was the most terrible person at social media. Like my Instagram account, I think it's been shut down. I don't know how many times I just like deleted it and I brought it back in. It's had just like one photo for the past 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So she's like, what do you even have? I was like, well, just to like follow like pictures of my son. Other than that, I was never really active like Facebook or anything like that. And then LinkedIn, quite honestly, I got on and I was a little overwhelmed when I first got on. This was about 3 years ago, basically, right before my son was born. And I was going to get active on it. I was reading all these things like, okay, LinkedIn is an incredible platform, etc. I was about to get active. Then my son was born and I just like completely forgot about LinkedIn until like a year later in Austin. I went to South by Southwest and I went to an event that was hosted by John Kraske. He's like, a big guy on LinkedIn, very well known. He's just very authentic. And we got along really well. We started talking. And he was like, listen, man, like, have you ever wanted to be active on this platform? And he just gave me some tips. He was like, get active, just, post consistently, etc. At the time, I was raising capital for one of my startups called Noble. And it's all about like innovating corporate philanthropy, etc. So we were going on a raise for that company. And so I got very active on LinkedIn. I started to just like get the courses, invest, etc. And then all of a sudden, I was able to raise $1 million all through LinkedIn. And it was just incredible out of like building relationships, being genuine about it, etc. But I had to like also like burn myself so many times just doing the wrong things. And fortunately, that went very well for the company. And I decided there's so many overlaps between startups and nonprofits that just are strikingly similar, right? And it's incredible. They call them investors, nonprofits call them donors. I personally like the name investors. It just feels like you're invested in the long-term vision of the mission.
Stakeholder, supporter, absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. And so all of a sudden after doing that, I was like, all right, let me stick around for like 6 months talking to nonprofits and how they're managing LinkedIn. And after seeing that they were just kind of underutilizing it, and seeing that anyway, I was like, wait, there's a huge opportunity here for each of you to just like build relationships, get in front of corporations, get the mission to be a lot more sustainable, and just teach them the right systems. And fortunately, it's gone really well for, my personal brand, myself, speaking engagement, et cetera, but more so really with all the nonprofits that we started to work with, because now they're like, oh, we're getting visibility. We're building these incredible relationships. They're, referencing us. There's like all these things that are being built, and it's because they got active on LinkedIn. So I'm here for the long haul with LinkedIn. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's fun to behold, and it just feels like it's really over like the last 12 months for me. I could be wrong. I'm just throwing chronology out there. I just think it's like it's gotten very mature. I love the the interplay between folks that are wearing different hats. I love how helpful people are, and I just, man, once again, another cliche phrase is, I just like people giving away their best information for free. What is and what what is what's happening. I don't understand what's happening in our space where it's like people hold on to the information. It's like, I can't tell anyone. It was like, hey, listen, it's probably not your IP. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'll go ahead and tell you something. You don't own your donors. It's probably not your IP. It's been done before. But I love the sharing. What do you? And let's get into that. I don't want to go negative, man. But from your perspective, what is it now that you've been in the social impact space and witnessing that on LinkedIn and with other discussions that you have with folks? What is it about our space that people feel like they need to hold on to that information and not share it? Like, what? I don't understand what's going on there. Talk to me a little bit about your experience there.
No, it's so true. It's such an interesting concept. Like everybody's working in the silo, and they're just
Yeah.
afraid of it. Like all of a sudden, oh, the donors might go elsewhere, or we can't share these tactics. And I'm like, there's a donor for every single type of cause. There's plenty of strategies that overlap to absolutely everyone. And like the more that we can lift the sector up, the more that we benefit absolutely everybody involved. And so, yeah, I'm a big believer in that myself. Like we're sharing like free resources all the time, just like wanting to put content out there. Like I don't mind if it's like even between consultants or fundraisers, et cetera. It's like, why would we want to compete with one another when in reality, we should be sharing these different types of materials to help nonprofits again uplift themselves and drive more impact. I mean, that's what we're in it for, is to make sure that the causes that we're serving are being amplified, right? And that's where I've been facing that a little bit, but I just have this conversation the way that you have. It's like, man, very genuine, and being the more that we share, the better it will go for absolutely everybody in the space.
Yeah. I had an interesting lesson in our world. We're very event specific with what we do on a day-to-day, auction specific, but the podcast has allowed me to just continue to be a student, beginner's mindset, just expand, our breadth of knowledge. And I've been able to learn in real time, speaking to people like yourself and so many other guests, and it's been amazing. But I had a lesson a while ago where one of our competitors, and I'm a very competitive person, and I've been in business for a long time. It's not my first rodeo, and I love it. I love being in business, and you're very entrepreneurial as well, right? So we have some stuff in common there. But I'm very competitive, not at the sake as I don't want to tear anyone else down. That's not my approach. I had an interesting lesson around COVID where a very big competitor went out of business, and I thought it was good. My business 101, econ 101 mindset from college was like, oh no, that's good. Less competitors is good, right? More market share, da da da. And it was bad, and it was a black eye on our space specifically, because a lot of nonprofits were left holding the bag, so to speak. A lot of organizations, so it actually wasn't good. What I did also realize in discussing things with my partner, who's sometimes far more pragmatic and wise than I am, he said, more good people in the space is good for the space. And I've ridden with that and not been adversarial, for a reason. And I really feel like we need more of that in our space.
It's so true. I mean, I couldn't agree more with what you just mentioned. And it's, I don't know, I feel like the collaborative mindset, even between competition, is just what we absolutely need. And it's been a fortunate outcome for myself. Like, I don't know, I get on calls plenty of times with what we could call a competition, direct competition or indirect competition. But ultimately, all of a sudden, we find ourselves in much more ways than one. It's collaborating and just finding different like relationships that we're building and making in those introductions and those connections. And it's just amplifying both networks, because there's obviously a niche and you're doing it, specifically or in different ways, et cetera. Or some potential client passes by our business for, I don't know, X amount of time, a year and a half, et cetera. But then they're at a different stage. And I'm like, hey, listen, you should go talk to this person. On paper, people would be like, aren't you competitors? But there's different stages for everything. So yeah, it's been, I don't know. When you have that mindset, I still like the competitive edge for sure. But I think that the collaborative model just brings a wealth of benefits for absolutely everybody involved.
Yeah, no question. It's been fun to watch. Once again, it's been fun to watch the idea. Just once again, just people putting their best info out for free. with no strings attached. There's also that piece too, and I understand where that comes from, the trepidation with folks sharing like what they think is the new hot idea or this really worked, this strategy. I understand it. It's like, oh, are we sure we should? Because I've been there, my hair on the back of my neck standing. I was like, are you sure we'll be saying this out loud? Oh my gosh, someone, this and that and thing. But at the end of the day, I think it's a very selfless act as well, because it's not about you, and
what you just mentioned. So I went through that, especially like with, like, let's say the startup mindset. Like when I was building out my company, like the first one, I was like, it's got to be under wraps, like anybody just like gets a little whiff of what we're doing, they're going to get on the market first. They're going to try to do this, etc. And then I realized like the best way possible is to build in public. So like the third startup, we just built in public completely. It was like, this is the stage that we're in. This is what we're doing. We're asking for help. We started to involve different like community members that were just giving feedback. Hey, do you know how to do this? We've suffered this problem. And building in public was like the best thing that could have happened to us. And so getting away from that mentality of just like getting yourself into a cave and just being like, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. And so forth. Just incredibly enough, gave us exponential growth. And I tell the same thing to the nonprofits, kind of in the same way. Stop trying to perceive yourself as looking as if you're perfect. So many times the messaging is always that things are going well. We got to take it with a much more relatable approach, which is, hey, listen, we had this challenge, and okay, we went through a tough, batch, etc. But this is what we learned from it. This is what we had to improve. This is what we did. And then that just makes the donor appeal so much greater, because all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're human. The cause is human. You're tackling it in this way. How can I help? Like, be vulnerable. And again, you're going to find yourself a huge reception of positivity and people willing to help.
Yeah. You said something very interesting, because the most brilliant minds that I've spoken to in fundraising have said to do exactly that. Lay it all out there. Hey, if you've messed up because it's been a year since you called a supporter, a donor, an investor, a stakeholder, say, listen, I screwed up. You're talking about the human side of it. Mario, it's the greatest time ever to be alive, in my opinion. I'm a born optimist, but I actually really feel that way. You're in Colombia. I'm in far Northern California. We're having this conversation. It's a pretty damn good time to be alive. You know what I'm saying? Kids are healthy, right? But at the same time, it's a very interesting time. It's a confusing time for a lot of people. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's not a lot of original thought sometimes. You can find darkness wherever you want to look, but you can also find positivity very easily as well. People can smell, if you don't mind me swearing, people can smell bullshit from a mile away better than they ever have before. Absolutely. But what's also very, very interesting is how much, especially people that you're looking to get involved with your organization, how much they will respond to that human side of things and just laying it all out there and going public. Yeah.
And especially now, it's like what you just mentioned, like, it is the best time. I'm absolutely loving it. I've been able to do things that I never would have expected. But that human side, we're living in the era of AI, right? Like, we're the ones creating it. We're in that bridge. I absolutely love it. I'm a huge proponent of it. But at the same time, I think it's like the greatest moment to showcase or highlight that humanity. And so it's like AI is there to increment your efficiencies, be more effective as an organization. It's democratizing, I feel, the sector, in the sense that now the little players can finally act a little more like the big players who've had a little more access to resources, funding, etc. So it's really allowing these like opportunities to come up. Naturally, there's like the ethical concerns that you have to be careful about, security, etc. But in this entire time of like the messaging and the outreach, this is where I'm telling nonprofits to shine with their voice. Like, what we're doing right now can't be replaced by AI. It's like, you need to get on that conversation. You need to still have that call. You can still send, your thank you messages and do a lot of things at scale. But this human touch, this is the moment to really make sure that you double down, triple down on that, because the benefits will be huge when you do so.
Of course, I know that's your message, is from consuming so much of what you've been putting out in the world. I know that's your message. You have folks start with LinkedIn. Let's get into it a little bit. Let's get into the weeds a little bit. Like, you have folks start there. You have folks identify, potential supporters and all these things. But you're still really pushing this, like, because my big thing is no news is not good news. And the most powerful fundraising tool is right here. And if you're listening to this, I'm holding up my iPhone, right, or whatever phone you want to use, right? It's the most powerful fundraising tool that you have, and for a myriad of reasons. But you have a background in tech, you're pushing LinkedIn, but you're still pushing people to have that connection. Talk about that, what you've learned and where that's going and how important that's going to be. Because we also not only say no news is not good news, we also say differentiation is stronger than competition 8 days a week. And the organizations that pick up the phone and engage and think and all of these things, they're the ones that are going to separate. Talk about that and your thoughts on that.
Oh, absolutely, man. So, one, traditional fundraising has occurred is on Instagram and Facebook. I mean, it's been that case for so many years.
Mm.
And incredibly enough, only about 49% of nonprofits are actually active on LinkedIn. I mean, it's a number that baffles me that even when I say it, people don't believe it. They're like, what? And even that 49%, let's say, is really just the organizational page. So not even the personal branding is being taken advantage of whether it's like the founders, leaders, fundraisers, anything involved in the nonprofit space aren't being active on LinkedIn. So one, it's a huge missed opportunity because you're in the best time possible to have that first mover advantage. Like those nonprofits that are getting now active on LinkedIn and are taking that personal branding seriously are reaping the rewards because all of a sudden there isn't a saturated messaging on the platform. Instead, there's a bunch of different like businesses, professionals, coaches, speakers, and so forth that are looking for impact, and they haven't seen that space anyway. So, like the first thing I tell them is in terms of that relationship first minded approach, that human to human connection is never pitch absolutely anybody. It's like that's the worst thing that you could ever do. Is like the first way to actually destroy your credibility and destroy your trust. You need to have patience, which I know is a little tough. Where I mean, they're tackling these causes, they're urgent, etc. But it's incredible. Like if you actually focus on the relationship and the long-term relationship, it just pays off so much more than that one transactional, I don't know, $500 donation that you got in that one time. Build and bet on that long-term relationship. And there's an entire system to really do so. I mean, that's what we've been teaching is how to actually get from that first conversation, build out the system, get the DMs, establish that trust, earn that trust. And then all of a sudden you're going to find yourself facing potentially six-figure donations for your nonprofit, all within LinkedIn, zero paid ads, because there's an entire opportunity there. And that's what we've really like to focus on ourselves because it's a space that it's exciting. I absolutely love it. I've lived it myself, and then we've gone through the entire like testimonials and putting it out there. Saw the success for the organizations that we work with, and more people need to start doing it.
You said something interesting too. I mean, you said personal brand because I've spoken to. I don't know if you connect with Michelle Benson. Super, another LinkedIn. Another LinkedIn guru like you know what I mean? And was a fundraiser, for 3 decades. And so she was the first like expert. You're the second that I've connected with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was amazing what she said. She said your company profile is not where you need to live. You need to get off the couch and start doing it yourself. She said something so indelible to me. And I know you'll like it. She said, pretend like no one cares who you are, only how you can help them. And I was like, whoa.
Absolutely.
She hit me so hard. Yeah.
Michelle's brilliant. I absolutely love her. I've had the pleasure of getting to know her really well as well. But I couldn't agree more with that. And it's like, if you always have that mindset in anything in life, I think that the most powerful words.
It applied to everything. It applied to everything. When she said that, I was like, oh, holy shit, I'm running with this forever.
And those are the most powerful words for sure. I always end up every conversation with saying, how can I help? Like those 3 words, done. It sounds so simple. And people are like, well, that's, it's very simplistic and so forth. I'm like, it opens up a wealth of opportunities because when you have that trust again that you've been able to build out with the other person, it's huge. You build a bridge, and then that sphere of influence just starts to grow even more so. But it's like I treat LinkedIn, for example, as if you would any in-person networking event. There's this weird psychological barrier or shift that people get, I don't know, get to experience when they get onto a platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, anything else. All of a sudden, it's like you're online. There's like a different behavior. There's a different way that you can actually manage yourself. And I tell people, I'm like, no, dismantle that. Treat LinkedIn as if you would any networking event that you go to in person. You're never going to go there to that networking event and say, hey, Trevor, such a pleasure to meet you. My name is Mario. So I do this and I sell it for $5,000. well, like when I don't want to talk to you, that's the quickest way that you're going to end up in the corner not talking to absolutely anybody. Instead, you're just there having a conversation, who you are, have some chit chat, try to help. Say, oh no, I can introduce you to this individual. Fantastic, it's wonderful. Be be much more interested than you ever are interesting. If you can be less interesting about yourself but more interested in others, the better it will go.
It's so good. That framework, I haven't heard that one before. That's really good. And it lets the hooks out because one of my questions was, hey man, I like pretend like I'm an executive director or even a founder of an organ, and I'm like, I got to get off the couch, man. I know I got to do this. I know it's an opportunity, but I'm just not comfortable with this personal brand thing, Mario. Oh, geez, what do I do? This and that. And you're like, hey, just pretend like you're going to a networking event. Just pretend like you're going to another conference. You've been to these tech conferences before, these software conferences or CRM conferences, or, we just went to the Boys and Girls Club national conference last month, and it was awesome. And it was great to be around people. And yeah, I think that if you can hone that skill where it's like, I'm just going to be me. Yeah. You never walk up to anybody and go, hey, yeah, this is what I sell. It's $5,000. How good to meet you. But is that how you instruct people to kind of like, I call it get off the couch, so to speak, and take the plunge to do it? You're just like, hey, just do you and pretend like you're in a room full of people. Like give some double click on that for the audience a little bit, Mario, that once again, so they can give them a nudge to get off the couch a little bit.
No, of course. I mean, I love how you mentioned it. It's exactly that. Excuse me. Like get out of your comfort zone a little bit. I
Yeah.
think it's a lot of self-limiting beliefs. Some individuals, and that happened to me. So I say it out of like personal experience. Like, why am I going to get on LinkedIn? What do I have to share? And so a lot of the times people have that mentality. It's like, like what do I have to teach? And incredibly enough, there's always someone that you can mentor. Like I am a big believer that one, you should always be mentored. Find some coach, somebody that can actually mentor you through your journey, but then be a mentor. And you can be a mentor to absolutely anybody. There's always someone that's two steps behind you that could learn from your own journey, and you've got the insight. So get out there in terms of like your content. I'm just like, put it out there. Like, don't be so worried about it. That's one thing I love about LinkedIn. It's a professional network. That's where you're not going to find the trolls and the haters that you find on other platforms. LinkedIn is tough to find that negativity. I'm sure that you'll find that every once in a while, but nevertheless, I've found in my experience, it's a lot more positive. People are uplifting. They're looking to uplift at any point that they can. So that's where it is to get out of your comfort zone, give some of your insights. Don't think about it too much. Like, oh, these gurus and the hooks and all these things be relatable, be human. This is the way that I write. This is what I'm saying. This is what I want to share to the world. Excellent. And it starts there. Now you got to give the reciprocity, right? Like you got to, the love you take is equal to the love you make, as the Beatles say. And so it's like, you got to be able to put out that love as well. Like, hey, comment on other people's posts, engage, get out there, just have the conversations and get out of that whole just like, oh, nice post. Oh, thank you. How would you do it again? Like we were talking about in real life, just have a conversation, ask a question, just be interested in other people and it'll go well.
Be a soul brother, be a soul sister, say something nice to somebody. Yeah, I haven't found very much negativity. I don't want to go down that negative path, but I want to ask you a couple questions about where I see some people's thoughts going, some opinions going, and just their expertise, so to speak. But you're absolutely. It's been amazing, the graciousness that I've witnessed on LinkedIn, and our conversations no difference. Like I think you're like, hey, bro. Yeah, I'll come on the pod. I'm like, hey, man, we're feeding some fish right now. My kid, come on the pod. All right, I'll see you in a few weeks. I was like, this is far out, man. This is cool. It got me pretty hyped, right? But that's happened a lot, and it's been really, really cool. So I don't have a problem thinking that will continue. One thing I have noticed, once again, not going dark, and I'm not going negative. I have noticed, and I know you'll have some thoughts about this. I don't think life is like this. I think one of the worst traits in life is rigidity. And I think one of the worst traits in fundraising is rigidity and any professional endeavor. And I'm a big believer in, it's kind of like a Gary Vee thing, actually. It's kind of like, so I'll give credit where credit's due. But fundraising is not an or thing, it's an and thing. And I find so many people, good people that do good work, go, oh no, you have to do it my way. It's this or that. And, it's like, it's major gifts, not galas. And it's like, well, hold on. You can have your cake and eat it too, baby. This is amazing. Like, it's the greatest time ever to be alive. I want you to talk about what you've witnessed. If you don't have to agree with me, brother, but I just like, I've noticed there's a lot of people, this just happens naturally with human behavior, where it's people are going, or this or that, this. And I'm really, really on my soapbox lately going, like I'm some thought leader. No, I'm not, but I will stand on a soapbox and I won't stop talking, as you can tell. However, I really, really want you to talk about your thoughts about like fundraising is an and game. It's either and, not either or. Talk about that.
Yes, I mean, I'm not gonna be able to disagree with you on this because I'm completely on the same page. I've gotten that before. It's like all of a sudden they think I'm just telling them just grow on LinkedIn, disregard Facebook and disregard Instagram, for example. Like, no, it's not. Again, it's not this or that. It's no, utilize all the channels that are available to you. That's why they are there, and you got to be able to be strategic. Whether you're a team of one, whether you're a team of 10, whatever stage you're in, you first have to understand where you're at, like what your main problem is, what's urgent compared to what's important. But then use multiple channels. So I've been telling them, listen, there's these incredible fundraisers that are fantastic utilizing, Instagram and Facebook and, paid ads and Google ads, etc. You can be utilizing. And I love to make those like references, like Community Boost is another company that does a great job. Their CEO, Cameron Ripley, is an incredible person, for example. So take that approach. I'm very much focused on making sure that you get six-figure donations and above on LinkedIn. Doesn't mean that that's the only channel you should be utilizing. That's why there are galas. That's why there are different types of events. There are different revenue streams. You should be having earned revenue, grants. I'm a big believer that, again, the same thing right now, the political atmosphere and everything, like grants are being pulled, etc. But it doesn't mean that now it's like, oh no, now I'm not going to pay attention to grants. Look what just happened, forgetting about it. No, they are still there. Make sure that it aligns with your cause and you use your time wisely, and whatever platform, whatever model works for you that is like the most urgent for this time in your organization, maximize on it. But I am a big believer of that, just like stacking things together, multiple revenue streams, multiple funding streams, and so forth that you have to evaluate and analyze. But that is the moment that it all comes down to leadership. And you have to be open and not rigid, as you well mentioned, to those different possibilities.
Yeah, it's good. You have to be an equal opportunity receiver when you're in this business. Right? That's what
So,
yeah. You have to be. I stole that from my partner, Jason. Equal opportunity. He also says a famous one. He goes, and it's funny because you'll chuckle at this. What the nonprofit moniker was given to this space by an accountant. I don't know why we let an accountant do that. And I love accountants. It's great, but we say people are like, well, I'm a 501c3, and it's like, well, hold on, now that's a tax designation. That's not a business plan. Yeah. When you go, Mario, please.
I chuckle at it because I think it's absolutely true. I think, I mean, just even the vocabulary, right, of our sector has done a little bit of a disservice. And that's where I'm like, even like nonprofits, I wish that wording would change to some point, being like social profits or a different wording, just so that we can increment again those opportunities. That self-limiting factors, self-limiting beliefs are still somewhat present. So I think even the vocabulary has to be so careful as to how we use it.
Let's get into some rapid fire. Speaking of the vocabulary, and I don't usually do this, man. What would you like to see the name, the label be?
Personally, I'm a big proponent of social profit. I think it works extremely well. Like social organization, social profit, something around that sense. It works for myself. It's just like uplifting. Like, all right, I want them to realize that they need profit. I want them to realize that call it profit, call it revenue, but you need money to make it sustainable. You need various different like income streams, revenue streams, and so forth. And I think that it doesn't taint the mission. I think there's a lot of that discussion, right? It's like, no, we're not a business. You are a business. You should operate like a business. And that doesn't take the mission away. If anything, now you're making sure that those people that you serve, it's going to be sustainable, whether it's like 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the road. That's what you really want. So yeah, just don't be afraid of being tainted, which I find a lot of the times from the conversations that we have.
So social profit versus nonprofit, donor, or what's a better label?
Investor for myself. Absolutely. Because like, it's a little like transactional, right? When you think of like donor versus something that's a little more long term. I don't know. I'm a big believer in that.
I'm a big believer in branding. I'm a big believer in being different. It's worked out incredibly well. I don't know why it's working so well nowadays. I think it's because of the time that we're living in, but the differentiation versus competition piece. Oh, no, you're not a donor, you're an investor. Massive, massive unlock. I wish more organizations bought in on that. Ask, or what do you like better?
Partner or co-value. Like, yeah, absolutely. It
We
could
like
go
invitation. We like invitation. What do you think of that? We're going to invite you. We like to invite you to get involved. What do you think of that?
even better. Absolutely. I mean, it's just like, again, that creates bridges, right? That creates that openness. So yeah, I really enjoy that.
Yeah, because it seems like people get so caught up in the fear, so to speak, or the nerves associated with asking. Obviously, no one wakes up. This is another good follow up question for you, Mario. No one wakes up with a burning desire to like, hey, I'm just going to pick up my phone and start asking people for money. But you have to. How do you reframe that conversation when the time is right and you've met folks, for instance, on LinkedIn or whatnot? How do you talk to your clients and just folks that you've just encouraged and nurtured through these processes? What do you tell them to do just to reframe their mindset about that fear and trepidation that naturally comes with the bad word ask?
So I love this question is that I talk about it quite a lot with the organizations that we work with. One, the ask is very one-way street. I mean, it is a transactional vocabulary and it frames the other person to just feel like, ah, okay, now I'm the one who has to just help. They're not obtaining anything. When you're thinking about it, and it applies both to individuals and corporate partnerships. So let's say we're focusing on corporate partnerships right now. Nonprofits, and this time as well, which as you all said, is like the best time to be alive. In this moment, they have the greatest value that they can be providing to the corporations. Why? Because 75% of the workforce is now Gen Z and millennials. What that means is that they're completely purpose driven. So when you shift that mindset of saying, "Oh, I have an ask," no, as a matter of fact, as a nonprofit, you bring huge value to any company that wants to partner with you. So there's a mutual relationship based out of mutual respect and equal value that's being presented to both. They're now getting much more employee engagement, customer retention, transparency, PR. I mean, the benefits and the list goes on. But when you shift that and say, hey, listen, we're wanting to explore this partnership with you because we see that your mission aligns with this and your company has been so relevant in helping these different causes, et cetera. Now the company's all ears because they're saying, wow, I mean, look at all the benefits that we're getting. And they're talking to us as if we're equal partners, which is what they ultimately want. So that's where once you reach that level of trust, that you've reached that level of relationship with that company decision maker, reframe it and never say, listen, can we pitch you on this? Can we ask you for X amount? No, it's come at it completely like, hey, listen, we want to provide you this value. And we're excited to be able to partner with somebody so incredible like yourself and this organization. It just makes a world of a difference.
That's so good. Partner. I am noticing when we have the opportunity to partner with folks in our space specifically, I hear them saying, I hear them craving the idea of a partnership. For those corporate supporters, investors, do you find the same with the folks you're working with? Like there's a once again just a reflection of the time that we're in right now. I feel like folks are craving partnership. As long as everything aligns and you're in the office and you're having the conversation regarding value and what have you. I think it's a massive opportunity to focus on partnership. People could say collab. I love it. Great. I don't think partnership is getting overused. I don't think it's a buzz term because it's being underutilized. Talk about that.
Oh, so absolutely. I came in again, like my previous startup, Noble. It's all about employee engagement. Like we reduced turnover costs by over 57% by making sure that their employees are doing social good. Now, what we did was understand the corporate side first, which is why then I started focusing on nonprofits and say, all right, let's flip it around, help them establish these partnerships. Corporations are actively looking for nonprofits who to partner with and collaborate with. It's just that they didn't have that ability to make sure that they were findable. One, two, that mutual respect was there and that mutual value was already established. So corporations are actively seeking that because, as we well mentioned, they need it. Remote work is up high. I mean, they got to get their employees much more engaged. Like this engagement has been at an all-time high in the US. internationally. So they're actively looking for ways to be able to demonstrate purpose. And there's been an evolution, let's call it, within the corporate space where that CSR role that, let's say, was somewhat forgotten. And this is just for our annual shareholder meeting. And it's like, here's the impact report that's been in the dust in the shelves of the bookshelf for so much time. No, now it's a core strategy. And so I spent a lot of years was like talking to corporations saying, stop greenwashing it, stop doing these marketing campaigns as if it was like some PR spin-off. It's got to be a core strategy in your business. And if it isn't, you're going to be forgotten by your competition. So now that that evolution has occurred, nonprofits again have this incredible ability to say, we are your solution. We are here. We want to have the conversation. We want to be a part of the movement. We want to be a part of the solution. So all of a sudden, the ambiance or the atmosphere is completely different to what it was at least 20, 30 years ago.
Huge culture shift in these organizations as a result, too. Massive. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's incredible.
Gives everybody a big case of the feel goods.
It really does.
I mean, that's, yeah.
More. Like we need that, right? It's for too long it was really, I mean, it was being treated like that, like a slogan, and it's fortunately shifting internationally as well. I know in Latin America it took a long time, but then all of a sudden they started to realize that again, doing good is really doing good for business, and the more that they are, then now they're actively seeking these partnerships with nonprofits that can be the ones showcasing that impact and embedding it into their business model. So once you become a part of that, and so you're part of that function, everything changes and it's just so amplified.
I think it's great. You find yourself having conversations with folks where you're just like kind of like quote unquote shaking them by the shoulders going, hey, listen, break out of this mindset. I want you to understand how much money is in the system. There's a lot of uncertainty. We can chase headlines right now. I get it. I understand that people don't do well with uncertainty. We just don't as a society, as human beings in general right now, because maybe we're over indexed or whatever. I don't know what the answer is because I'm not, a human behavior scientist. I like to witness human behavior and learn about it. But do you find yourself really trying to, and people call it scarcity, abundance mindset, all these different things, right? We can ascribe to it. But do you find yourself having conversations, just really trying to show folks there is a tremendous amount of money in the system? You could say there's a tremendous amount of opportunity as a result. What do you do when you have those conversations with folks just to really just break them out of that mindset where there's like, oh, I'm afraid to ask. Oh, we asked them for 5. Can I ask them for 10? Gee, that kind of thing. Like you find yourself having that conversation from time to time.
Yes. I've definitely had that conversation quite a few times. I guess I'm always comparing the worlds of like startups and nonprofits, right? I'm always like, they're both such similar functions, especially when like the startup is actually starting off, because they're in the same mindset. They're looking for investment. They're for the most part like trying to raise, etc. They still don't have the customers. They're pitch slapping. So I'm like, don't pitch slap, don't donation slap, etc. But a lot of the times, what I do admire out of those startups, and I'm a big believer, like nonprofits are the original startups. They just don't get the cool aura, like the movies and like the shows, etc., around the atmosphere of nonprofits isn't as celebrated as it is for the startup world. And I think it should be shifted. It should be absolutely like the script should be flipped. Nonprofits are the original startups. So with that in mind, I do think that there's a thing that they should be learning from the startup founder. And there's a little bit of that fearlessness, a little bit of that fail fast mentality. Now, it's not ultimately also all their fault. There's a big fault of the donors, the ones that are giving the gifts of this sector, saying, we're going to scrutinize them so hard if they use $100 incorrectly. Instead, a nonprofit founder goes out there and might spend $200,000 making a mistake until they actually reach the ability to now turn that around. Out of all those failures, we celebrate them. I mean, and the sector celebrates like what failures they have to go through this, call it perseverance, call it resistance, resilience, and so forth. And then we celebrate the moment that they turn that around. We scrutinize this sector so terribly, I feel, and we're so harsh on these nonprofit leaders and organizations that we've made it even tougher for them. So I think that they should definitely have a little bit of that fail fast approach. It's fine. Like actually invest into your marketing, invest into your advertising. Like you got to be able to put it into the overheads. Don't be afraid of it. Test out new processes, A/B testing and so forth. And ultimately you're going to find really the right roadmap to increment that impact and make sure that you're delivering that mission to the cause that you're focused on. But if we give them that space and we give them that confidence and that patience, then again, the sector will be better for it. But that's where they have to be able to get that, what you were mentioning, kind of that ask. Don't be afraid of it. They've always been around the 5,000. Well, then reach out. Okay, we're going to go for 15, 20,000 because we're reframing our mindset. We've gone through it with a different approach. We have a different mentality. We learn from the past, etc. Be brave, be fearless, like be bold, and you're going to be surprised at the opportunities that present themselves.
Fortune favors the bold. Like, have you ever heard that one a long time ago, like listening to Tony Robbins or something like that? One always stuck with me. Yeah. No, it's good. I love hearing it, and I'm fascinated by people like you working in the space. I think it's amazing, and the parallels that you're drawing between our space and startup and the mentality. When you're starting a company, it's a giant people exercise too, right? There's a lot of speak to your thoughts. I'm coloring outside the lines a little bit, but like speak to but you have experience. Speak to your thoughts about like why aren't organizations able to hold on to good people? Why? Yeah, talk to me about this, the retention piece and the burnout piece, or whatever you care to talk about, just in that framework.
So that, man, that comes into like the same, let's say, call it sector-wide mentality that we need to change. Like too many of the times in the for-profit sector, there's an incredible investment into leadership. I mean, you see it when you go to these executive education programs. Like I was at Harvard recently, and I would see, Microsoft, Salesforce, Google. I was talking to all these different enterprises, and I was like, where are the nonprofit organizations placing in their leaders here at these education programs? I wouldn't find them. And so I was like, again, that's a missed opportunity. We need the donors to also realize that we need to invest in the healthiness of our teams and their wellness and their well-being. So making sure that they are not burnt out, but then making sure that they are well developed, that they're continuously learning. And that's one of the pieces where, I was just like into investment capitals, like foundations of private equity and venture capital. And I was just taking out all those different learnings to apply it into venture philanthropy that we're helping a few organizations in the investments and making sure that they have this like huge sustainable mission. But it's because I was able to invest into myself. And so the donors and the corporate donors have to realize that the organizations are suffering from retention rates. They're not being paid correctly. I mean, we need to compete with the largest companies if we want to drive or solve the most pressing issues, providing purified water, tackling all these diseases, et cetera, like all these societal problems. How are we going to do it if the best talent is really only focused on the tech sector or Fortune 500 companies, et cetera? We need to be able to lift that up and increment the pay and the salary. And it shouldn't just, and when they say it should just go to the mission, it is going to the mission because you're paying your team handsomely. Now they're motivated, they're well taken care of, and their mindset can be focused on delivering the outcomes for the mission itself. So I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah, growing something really cool and witnessing it firsthand, I noticed that, hey, you want to keep people, pay them well. Okay, that doesn't make them greedy. Okay. Sounds pretty simple to me, man. If they want to go off and start their own shop, more power to them. That's fantastic. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff happens. But man, oh man, it just seems so obvious. It's wild. And also, I've noticed too, stepping into a leadership role over time, and just being around more people is letting them staying out of the way. I think, right? Making sure everybody's happy, but it's like just empower, giving them everything they need and just getting out of the way. You know what I mean? And I love what you said about the board doing that. And that's something we need more of in the space, no question.
And when you mentioned like, man, it's a lot of education. Like, and when I say education, not only for like the nonprofit leaders, it's education for the public. Too many times I've battled with this. I've had like heated arguments where all of a sudden it's like, I remember a few Latin American friends, and we're like, well, they just raised X amount of donations. I'm so happy for that nonprofit. Well, it's probably just going to go to the CEO and like their team, et cetera. And I was like, wait a second, like what? They shouldn't be getting paid, handsomely for their efforts. I mean, they're tackling these huge issues internationally, et cetera. So it's like there's this stigma that all of a sudden, well, if you work with a nonprofit, you shouldn't be paid whatsoever. We have to dismantle that, and that's education for the public in general, like companies, individuals, and so forth. It's a sector that requires recognition. It's a sector that's doing the hardest work out there with less resources. And again, we have to celebrate their efforts. We have to celebrate the entire team, have good pay, that they're compensated for those efforts. So that's a conversation that I like to have, but definitely think we need more education available for everybody, to have that access and have that different mentality and approach.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we got to keep at it, no question. Well, uh, you can count on us to do that. We're going to keep doing it. Yeah, we're learning a little bit about people, man. It's been interesting to witness, and well, it's also really cool. I'm also encouraged by it, not by the lack of pay. I'm encouraged with how infant this feels. You know what I mean? Like the start. You talk about the startup mentality. I have that mentality with our own company where it's like someone just started. And I go, hey, and they're excited. They're really really pumped to be on the team, and the culture's strong, and all these things. And I'm just like, hey, listen, I mean this. This is just the beginning. And that's my own take on life in general, and our organization and whatnot. But this space is so young, Mario. I mean, so much opportunity, right?
It's so true. It's as you well mentioned, like infant, we're not even in our teen years, so it's like we have to be patient as well, and we have to just keep working at it together. We have to be, yeah, again, that kind of that fearless mentality. Let's try new things. Let's get out there. Let's try new processes, which is why I absolutely love, honestly, like what we're doing. I was talking about this with my business partner, Randy, and I was telling him, I haven't felt this good regarding work. Like I've been fortunately an entrepreneur for 17 years plus. I've had like the exits. I felt very fortunate for everything that I've been able to live in my life. But the work that we're doing now and working with nonprofits and meeting change makers on a weekly basis, I couldn't be happier for it. And I'm also learning every single day as I go along. So it's extremely satisfying to be able to live in this time and meet people like yourself and now explore different like introductions and relationships and how we can actually increment the sector and uplift it. But it is very young. There's still so much to do, things that we're like understanding. And I don't know, I guess I wake up every single day a little more curious. I'm like, all right, what are we going to do today?
Yeah. Yeah, what I've been finding myself saying this a lot to people that ask, like, oh, I haven't, and my friends, my wife tolerates my wacky, affliction with entrepreneurship, and my partner and I both, we call it an affliction, right? But my friends know that if I didn't talk to me like a week or 2 weeks or something like that, they just know like I'm into, and I'll get questions. I'm just like, you know what? I find myself saying this a lot. The work is good. And I really feel that way. I feel like you were mimicking that, as well. It's like, I just feel like the work is good, it's amazing. Yeah.
It's so true. One of the things like I was talking to a few nonprofit organizations is we always do these cohorts and get them all grouped in and learn how they can actually leverage LinkedIn and so forth. And they always ask, like, all right, have you gone through this yourself? Like, were you out of your comfort zone? So just a little personal like history about ourselves. Like my business partner, Randy, and I, we've never met in person. Not yet. We're going to change it this year. We
Oh,
met
good.
through LinkedIn, and he showed during one of the cohorts, like, you want to know the possibilities of LinkedIn? Here it is. He showed like the first message, and it was him messaging me like September 24th last year. And he was like, Mario, I saw that you're a philanthropreneur yourself. You've gone through this. Man, just wondering if you want to jump on the call, get to know each other. No ask, no pitch, no sell. Just want to get to know you, man. I was like, man, love your message, Randy. From there, an incredible friendship has been born. I had never started a business ever in the past with somebody that I didn't know personally or even like in person. And it all happened through LinkedIn. And now all of a sudden, like 6 months, 8 months later, we're doing all this impact work. We're working with nonprofits. We've been managing this business, it's been going fantastic. And all of a sudden, we look back to it and we're like, out of just one conversation, a reach out that happened on LinkedIn. And all of the nonprofits that we're working with have been going, fortunately, through the same thing. They're just telling us like the wealth of opportunities that are coming in and inbounds, et cetera. Just like these relationships, it's all because we decided to get active. We started to really engage. So it's been an incredible journey, and we lived it again. Myself, like, I'm going to meet Randy in the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, and change that up.
That's awesome. Well, it's a good time of year. I think we mentioned he's in British Columbia. It's a good time of year to go to British Columbia. It's pretty beautiful up there right now. Yeah.
I'll take them up on that. I need to make that trip happen and plan it out with my wife. See if we go with our baby boy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I like to ask, you don't have to agree, but I have a question I ask every guest, and it's an accepted premise that fundraising is hard. Everything is, it's supposed to be, man. You got to have something to fight for, right? And I say fundraising is hard. I'm posing the question to you. Don't make it more difficult by doing what?
Don't make it more difficult by adding your own self-limiting beliefs. Like, don't make it more difficult by putting yourself in the way. And that's what I always tell the organizations that we work with. It is hard. LinkedIn is hard. Establishing corporate partnerships is hard. And anything in life will take the time, but it's up to you. And so that's where I always tell them, like, you have to change. Like, you literally have to change yourself and get out of that comfort zone. Saying no is the easiest thing possible, right? It's like saying no just allows you to keep doing what you're doing, stay in that comfort zone, and not have to be able to actually put in the work and say, well, I'm vulnerable now. So don't put yourself in the way, and actually now change your ways and say, all right, I'm going to go at it with this new mentality. So it's really, it all does start with your mentality. Like, that is the foundation. It sounds cliche. A lot of coaching leadership courses are all about it, but it really just starts there. So if fundraising is difficult, you're probably placing yourself, in front of that problem and creating your own roadblock before you can increment those opportunities. You got to be able to change that within yourself.
It's awesome. It's good, man. It's good. Yeah. I appreciate you, brother. All the way from Colombia. How cool is this, man? That's pretty rad.
Appreciate that. I mean, we got to meet in person as well, Trevor. I'm hoping to be in Cali sometime later this year, as a matter of fact. So
Okay.
happy to visit. And you've got a friend here in Colombia. I don't know how long we're going to be here for, but if you even come and I'm not around, like, just shoot me a message. I'll be like, all right, you got to go to these different places, try out these different restaurants. I'll be happy to be of support any way that I can.
I'm big on gastronomy, man. On fundraising and gastronomy. I'm into that, man. That's beautiful. No, hey, brother, I mean it. Thank you so much for taking the time. I didn't mean to go this. I didn't. We just got going, so I didn't mean to take this much of your time. I know you're with your family, brother. A big fan of the work that you're doing. We're going to put your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. Everybody, do us a favor. Show Mario some love on LinkedIn. You can let him know you heard it here first or what have you. I can't thank you enough for even taking the time, brother. I'm a huge fan of the work that you and Randy are doing and the work that you're doing with all your partners as well. Pretty amazing, bro.
No, likewise, my friend. Honestly, like, this has been a privilege. Absolutely love having this conversation with you. Honestly, I wasn't even like paying attention to the clock, so thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'd love to host you as well for a LinkedIn Live whenever you can, Trevor. Happy to have you on. So let's make that happen. And take care. Enjoy your children as well. I'm gonna get you for advice when my children are getting a little older as well. But Trevor, love this conversation. Thank you so much, and thank you to your audience, to your community, for being around and taking the listen.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother. Okay, cool. Yep. Yeah. I'll come on LinkedIn Live anytime, and this is your invite as well to come back. So thank you, brother. We'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
Thanks again, Trevor.
It's a huge blessing to have your family involved in your business. I grew up in a family business. We are responsible for the community of which we live.
Yeah. Well, you want to call it hustle, grind, thought, people, access. And we're constantly telling people, Larry, that there is so much money in the system.
It's confidence, it's trust.